Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So I got to be honest with you guys. This is a video that I had to redo. I actually recorded this video a few days ago, but then I realized an error that I had made. So I said, nah, I can't put this video up. I'm going to have to recut it because I had some terminology mixed up. And as I've said previously, I'm not as much into sports as I used to be, when I was a teenager in my 20s and 30s. Sports, I still like sports. I'm just not into it. I have a lot of other things going on in life that I just can't pay much attention to sports. But, you know, whenever I cover something on this channel or on the blog, it has something to do with race connected to Black Brazilians or just a situation of, race, racism, racial identity, classification in Brazil. So I don't necessarily talk directly about, sports, but it's always going to be something how it's connected to somebody who's Black, Brazilian, or it has something to do with race. So today's story, I'm talking about the value of sports players, particularly soccer players. Brazilians Vinicius Jr. and Rodrygo are among the 5 highest valued players in the world. 9 other Brazilian players are in the top 100. So, like I said, I had to recut this video and I'm going to explain that as I go on. So let's just get directly into the video for now. So this is Vinicius Jr. and Rodrygo. They're stars of the Real Madrid team over in Spain. So why I wanted to cover this today is because I'm just absolutely astounded by the type of money that today's modern athlete makes. The explosion of athletes' salaries on team sports. When I started digging into, the what was going on with sports off of the field, off of the court, that was just as fascinating as what I saw on TV with the players actually playing. People, a lot of people always say in the music business, the music business is 90% business and 10% music. In some ways, I see it the same way in sports, because it's one thing to watch your favorite player doing whatever they do. But then when you find out the stuff that goes on in the boardroom, how much money these people pay, how much they gain, how much they earn, these players, these athletes are like their own businesses if you really, really look at it. And it always begs the question, if owners are paying athletes this type of money, how much are the owners making? It's something that I always ask, right? So because of some of my favorite athletes, I would go behind the scenes. I used to have a subscription to Sports Illustrated magazine, and I often tell how that was the first time I had actually seen Pele. It was an old magazine cover. Like, who is this guy? Because soccer was never as big as the big 3 sports in the US, basketball, football, and baseball. But knowing the history of some of these players, like when Julius Erving, Dr. J, one of my favorite players when I was a kid, when he moved from the American Basketball Association to the National Basketball Association, the ABA to the NBA, basically he was bought. The New York Nets sold him to the Philadelphia 76ers. There was this huge cash exchange. Julius Erving became one of the highest paid players in the NBA. Another guy who followed him from the ABA to the NBA, David Thompson, in the late 70s would become the highest paid basketball player, in the NBA. Julius Erving was making around $600,000 a year at one point, and David Thompson would pass that when he was making about $800,000 a year, which was considered big money that time. Okay. Some years later, just a few years later, like in the early 80s, the Los Angeles Lakers had signed Magic Johnson for like a 25-year deal for $25 million. And at the time, people was just, whoa, $25 million. That's $1 million a year. But man, you look at what athletes are making now, that's like chicken feed to what athletes are making now. In 1998, I remember Michael Jordan in the last 3 years with the Bulls. For a number of years with the Bulls, he was making more money off the court with his endorsements than he was making on the court. He might have been making $3 or $4 million on the court. So when he led the Bulls to 3 straight championships for the second time from 96 to 98, he went after that money. And I think in those last 3 years, I think Michael Jordan probably made like 25 to $33 million per year in those last 3 years that he played with the Bulls. So it was unheard of at that time. Just it's amazing how salaries inflate, how they keep going up. Now, Jordan made about $30 to $33 million in a single season, and that was considered a big deal. But nowadays, top athletes, top basketball, baseball, football players are making that regularly every year, which is astounding. The other thing I want to talk about as it ties into this story is when I became aware of this guy, Vinicius Jr. Every few years, Brazil produces another top soccer player that everybody in Europe has their eyes on. You know, the players generally in Brazil, they make their names on the soccer fields in Brazil, but then, you know, European teams come knocking at their door, and obviously they're going to leave because there's no way Brazilian soccer teams can pay them the type of money that they will be making over in Europe, whether they're in Spain or England, and they're getting paid in euros. You know, I think the value of the American dollar has been like $1 to 5 reais for like the last few years now, last several years. And if I'm not mistaken, the euro still has more value than the American dollar. So these guys are making a killing by playing over in Europe. But again, looking into the business of sports entertainment, it led me to understand there was this news story that broke maybe about 6 or 7 months ago. And at the time, I didn't really know what it meant. I don't, what's going on here? This had to do with Vinicius Jr., this guy right here. You know, this is his teammate, another Brazilian, Rodrygo. They play for Real Madrid. Vinicius Jr. and Jay-Z, I saw them in a picture together. I'm like, okay, so, you know, they took a picture together in Europe. At the time, Beyonce was on tour. And so when I saw a picture of Vinicius Jr. and Jay-Z together, I just thought to myself, okay, they're just taking a picture together. You know, Vinicius happened to be at a Beyonce concert. Jay-Z was there. They met. And, you know, they just took a picture together. That's all I thought at the time. That's all I knew at the time. That article came out like late May, early June of 2023. But it would be about a month or so later that I would find out what was going on with that picture. Now, before I move into that, I'm going to just move on to another thing that when you're talking about Brazilian soccer players, you have to talk about how Brazil is like a gold mine for European soccer. Yeah, I can't even name how many Brazilian players have played over in Europe in the last 30 years, right? This is an article from 2018 talking about the list of the 50 best Brazilian players of the European season. So, you know, Brazilians have been going over to Europe for some years making big money. So while I was confused about the article that I originally recorded, was that I was thinking that, okay, these players, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrygo, were the top paid players in Europe. But that didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand that because I know people like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo are the top paid soccer players in the world. And this is an article from November of 2023, you know, relatively recent, a couple months ago. And it just said that, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo makes 200 million on the field, 60 million off the field for a total of 600 million, you know, euros. Well, I guess that's worth dollars, it says here. Lionel Messi, 65 million on the field, 70 million off the field, 135 million total. Neymar, that's another thing I didn't even know. As I said, I'm not a big soccer fan, but, you know, I thought he was playing. I thought he was still playing in France, and I come to find out, okay, well, Neymar signed another contract. I think he's playing in one of the Arab nations now. 80 million on the field, 32 million off the field, 112 million. So these guys are making an absolute killing, you know, with their salaries. It's insane how much money they're making. I'm not jealous or anything. I'm thinking, you know, get that money, but I am astounded at how much money they make. So the reason why I had to cut that first video is because I come to understand that what they were talking about in the article is what's called expected transfer value, right? How much players would be worth if they sign a permanent contract with a team. A player's expected transfer value is an estimation of a price tag that a team could expect if it wanted to permanently sign a player. There are various elements that come into play to come to this figure, and to break it down in 3 areas. Number one, the calculation of economic value using important factors besides the player's performance ability. 2, compares a given player to the values, the transfer values of similar players. 3, uses unique data to provide an accurate portrait of up-to-date market conditions. Other information about a given player is also taken into consideration. For example, important details about the player, such as age, position, national caps, which means the tournaments, international matches, and even friendly games in which that player represented his country. The financial standing of the club, how much time remains on the player's current contract, fees paid for a player over a certain period of time, conditions of the buying market regarding a specific player. So these are all the things that I had to understand before I created this video, because I had current salaries and contracts mixed up with what a player's value could be if they were transferred to another team. So then going back, there's a lot of money that's being switched around here. So this is dated May 30th, 2023. And it says legend. It says Vinicius Jr. poses with Jay-Z at Tottenham Stadium as the Real Madrid winger attends a Beyonce concert. So you see Vinicius here, Vinicius with Jay-Z. This is the picture I saw, and then Beyonce, he was there. So I didn't think nothing about it at the time. Like, okay, well, they just took a picture together. But then about a month later, or a little bit more than a month later, in July of 23, then the news broke. Jay-Z lands Real Madrid superstar Vinicius Jr. as his newest Roc Nation recruit, as music legend opens up a Brazilian base to expand his business. So it wasn't that they just happened to meet during a Beyonce concert in England. No, Jay-Z's Roc Nation, the sports edition there, they bought, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a Brazilian agency that manages top Brazilian soccer players. And one of the big players in that agency is Vinicius Jr. and a number of other players, some of which I'm going to be talking about today. But so then I know that it wasn't just a casual picture. This was like a business transaction. Like, whether you want to see, Jay-Z's company that I don't know if he bought the company outright or he has a majority stake in the company. But this is what happened with that picture. Roc Nation Sports was founded in 2013. So this is Jay-Z taking his business platform overseas. Okay. They released, I think this was a release that came out on Twitter. Welcome Roc Nation Sports Brazil. Okay. So you got some of these athletes right here. They're actually in the article that I'm going to get into today. Then you get Vinicius making the infamous Jay-Z sign on the soccer field. Okay, so we can see where this is going. We clearly see where this is going now. Okay, so let's talk about this. Vinicius Jr. and Rodrygo are among the 5 most valuable players in the world by Mateus Ramos, courtesy of the Noticia Preta website. So the Football Observatory of the International Center for Sports Studies published a list of the 100 most valuable players in the world of soccer on Thursday, January 4th. Among the names selected are Brazilian stars Vinicius Jr., Rodrygo Goes, both from Real Madrid, occupying 3rd and 4th place in the ranking, respectively. This is Vinicius Jr. again. Vinicius Jr., the Spanish team's number 7 and a Flamengo player, Flamengo based in Rio de Janeiro, is valued at 250.3 million euros or 1.35 billion Brazilian reais. Next is Rodrygo, a striker with the same club, who is worth 247.9 million euros or 1.33 billion in Brazilian reais. Another Brazilian player, Rodrygo, of Sao Paulo's Palmeiras team, also appears on the list, with English player Jude Bellingham, also from Real Madrid, topping the ranking. Now, another thing I want to point out here, this has always fascinated me ever since I got into sports when I was a kid, how you had these dynasty sports teams. When I followed baseball, basketball, and football, I knew about, obviously there were the Lakers, there were the Celtics, you had the 49ers and the Cowboys, the Steelers, you had the Dodgers and the Yankees back in the day. And these teams always seem to be able to get their hands on the top list players, the movers and the shakers on the field. And they had the money to pay, these athletes top dollar. And the Real Madrid team over in Spain seems to be an equivalent over in Spain, because you constantly see them having top name players. Just these 3 here, this guy, Jude Bellingham, then you got Rodrygo and Vinicius Jr. from Brazil. It's like, wow, obviously Real Madrid is one of those elite teams. They always get the top soccer players, right? So this is Rodrygo Goes. He plays with Vinicius in Real Madrid, as I said. And this kid's name came up recently, Rodrygo. He plays for Palmeiras, one of the 4 big soccer teams in the city of Sao Paulo. Or actually 3 of them are in the city of Sao Paulo. And then you have Santos, which is the 4th, but it's on the coast of Sao Paulo State. So the 20-year-old midfielder has been highly valued following his success at Real Madrid, and is therefore listed or valued as 267.5 million euros or 1.44 billion reais at the current price. There are more Brazilians on this list. In the top 20 is an Arsenal striker, Gabriel Martinelli, valued at 148.2 million euros, or just short of 800 million Brazilian reais. Incredible. Okay. This is Gabriel Martinelli. Other players from the country in the top 100 are Bruno Guimarães from Newcastle, Gabriel Magalhães from Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus from Arsenal, Endrique he still plays for Palmeiras, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Eder Militão from Real Madrid, Anthony, Manchester United, Rafinha from Barcelona, Douglas Luiz on the Aston Villa team, and João Pedro on Brighton. Gabriel Martinelli. Then you have, this is Gabriel Magalhães, Gabriel de Jesus. You have Eder Militão. This is Rafinha, Douglas Luiz, and João Pedro, who I talked about in a previous article. You know, it's funny. One of these players I had seen, you know, I had to go behind. I think it was the young kid, the kid Endrique. And I saw an article online. I wasn't even looking for this, and I just happened to stumble across this article, and it's talking about Endrique's new girlfriend. I give you one guess what she looks like, but that's for another story. If you followed this channel long enough, you know what I'm getting at. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So anyway, Endrique Felipe is the only one on the list who doesn't play soccer in a European team. This is his team, Palmeiras in Sao Paulo, you know, famous for the green and white. The Palmeiras striker has already been sold to Real Madrid, but he won't start playing for the Spanish club until the second half of 2024 when he turns 18. So this kid isn't even of age yet. He's still 17. He can't even start playing over in Europe until he turns 18. Amazing. They're already putting his value. That's incredible. They already are calculating what the value of this kid is going over to Europe. For you soccer fans, you all know who this is, Mbappe. All right. I'm not saying he's Brazilian, obviously, but I'm talking about him because of what he's supposed to be worth these days. The market valuation takes into account the player's current contracts. Among the main changes compared to the 2023 list is a relegation of PSG's Kylian Mbappe, who used to be the third most valuable player and is now in 27th place. The proximity of the end of his contract with the French club, which runs into the end of June, could be one of the factors behind the drop. So this is big news to me because, again, I'm fascinated by how much money these people make nowadays playing professional sports. If any of you are big soccer fans and you follow the career of Rodrygo, or rather Vinicius Jr. since he's been in Spain, you know that he's been the target of racist incidents. I've lost track of how many times Vinicius has been the victim of some racist taunt, some racist word, some racist chant, or whatever it might be. So, he's kind of getting even because of all of the money that he's making. But it just goes to show, this is something that's global. So when I talk about racism in Brazil, it's not because I'm focusing just on Brazil, but just for the point that this is something that goes on all over the world. Even when a player is worth hundreds of millions, like somebody like Vinicius Jr. So anyway, just wanted to drop this story today because, as I said, I recorded a video a couple of days ago, but I made an error in understanding what it means to be, the estimated value of the transfer of a player to another team. So I had to recut the video. So want to know what you thought about this quick article, this video. Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video. Consider subscribing to the channel if you've seen more than a few videos that you like here. Drop a couple dollars in the Cash App, a couple dollars or super thanks is always appreciated. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.